With the NBA Finals being underway, only 2 teams have reached the ultimate goal and plenty fell short. Not every team had the same chance to compete for the title, and for some who had hoped to compete, they had to deal with some players holding them back from reaching the desired outcome for this season. So let's take a look at 7 players who held their team back this season. Damian Lillard is currently holding back the Portland Trail Blazers from reaching their desired situation. I know a lot of people are going to say that the management is ruining Lillard's career, which can also be true, but on the other end, I don't see them competing for a title soon with their current roster because they don't have enough assets to build the proper team around Dame, and players are not interested in coming to Portland in free agency. So Dame, being as loyal as he is and showing publicly that he wants to stay there, has put the Blazers in a tough situation. On one hand, they would look like a terrible organization if they decided to blow it up and trade probably their best player in franchise history in order to rebuild, but on the other end, this is probably the best possible outcome for them since they still got young talent in Anthony Simons and Shaedon Sharpe that they could build around, and the assets they would get in return for Dame would be interesting enough, in my opinion, for them to consider this option. The next player is considered as one of the top 5 best players in the league, but despite his status, Luka Doncic has been holding the Mavericks back since the day they drafted him, other than in his rookie year, where it was Dirk's final season. They have been competing for a playoff spot every single year. By being considered as one of the best talents in the league as early as his second year, the Mavericks were forced to make a win-now move in order to avoid staying in the middle of the pack. Right after his rookie year, they traded second-year player Dennis Smith Jr. and 2 future first-round picks that ended up only being one due to the protection to the one this year where there were controversy around because they tanked at the end of the year in order to draft in the top 10. In exchange for Kristaps Porzingis, which they then traded after 2 years and a half in exchange of Spencer Dinwiddie and Davis Bertans, who currently has one of the worst contracts in the league. And then they gave up Spencer, Dorian Finney-Smith, a second-round pick, and a first for Kyrie Irving on the final year of his contract this season. They've tried to find a team to build around Luka very quickly by giving up a lot of assets. They are in a very similar situation as the young LeBron-led Cavs, where they instantly became good because of one player and there was no time to get other young players to develop due to the instant success they had. Now what they would have hoped to reach is what the current Cavs are doing because they had time to gather a ton of young players with early selection in various drafts and good trades, for example the Jared Allen trade, so that the players had the time to develop together on the same timeline. And now in the past offseason they felt like they were ready to compete, so they made a big splash by trading their future assets for Donovan Mitchell in order to help round out their roster. But Dallas never had that chance because Luka took them from a mediocre team to a competing team very quickly. The next 2 players are all players that should have bigger roles for their team because they need them to play great in order to achieve their goals, but they have been falling short recently. Before I start, write in the comments which player you think I will be covering in this section, and while you're doing so, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe as well. Now the first player is Knicks forward Julius Randle. Since joining the Knicks, he has been a 2-time All-NBA player, but when playoff times comes around, he often disappears. Let's compare his regular season stats versus his playoff stats in the last 3 seasons. For the 2020-2021 season, he averaged 24.1 points, 10.2 rebounds, and 6 assists on 45.6% and 41.1% from 3. While in the playoff that same year, it dropped to 18 points. He managed shot rebound his regular season self with 11.6 rebounds, but only 4 assists on 29%, and 33.3% from downtown. After making his first All-NBA team, he got bounced in 5 in round 1 by the Hawks. Then the next season, he averaged 20.1 points, close to 10 rebounds, and 5 assists on 41% and 31% from 3, but they missed the playoff that year. And now for the 2022-2023 season, he averaged 25 points, 10 rebounds, and 4 assists on 46% from the field and 31.3% from the 3-point line to make another All-NBA team. But once again, when playoff time came around, his stats and efficiency all dropped to where he averaged only 18.6 points, 8.3 rebounds, and 3.6 assists on 37.7% from the field and less than 26% from 3. This time they managed to make it out of the first round, but he was a liability for the team as he was in the plus column only 1 game out of the 5 in the first round against the Cavs, and he shot the ball extremely poorly that round. His game did not improve in the second round where they matched up with the Heat. The Knicks gave him an extension in the summer of 21 where he's under contract until the 2024-2025 season, which that year is a player option of $29.5 million because they see him as a star or their number 2 player, but so far he has been costing them opportunities to make deep playoff run with his poor playoff performances. The second player was another player that underperformed in the second round this year, but this time this player is a former number 1 overall pick in DeAndre Ayton. We saw him having issues with the coaching staff last season in multiple occasions, but this summer as a restricted free agent, the Suns decided to match the deal the Pacers offered him of over $130 million for 4 years. Throughout the season, it was apparent that he did not improve since last year, which was pretty much the same player he was when he got drafted a couple of years ago. And he did not change mentally, as once again we saw him on multiple occasions arguing with the coach. But worse, we saw him not carrying an elimination game where they got blown out by the Nuggets, while he had underperformed the whole series to the point where Jock Landale had a bigger impact on the team's performance than this guy who was a former number 1 overall pick. Now the third player is Tobias Harris, but to his defense, he did not necessarily underachieve to the extent of the prior two, but with the contract he currently has and the hope of him being the third star for the Sixers, he's surely disappointed, and he's been disappointed for a couple of years now. I won't go into too much detail since I made a video where I went in depth on his situation, so I'll put the link in the description if you want to watch it after this one. The final two players are stars that have missed a lot of time, depriving their respective teams from chances to compete for titles. Since Kawhi joined the Clippers, he has only played 161 games out of the 308 possible games, excluding postseason games. And now with a torn meniscus, it is uncertain as to when he will come back next year, and what player will he be when he comes back. He has shown that he is still a great player, but he is rarely available, and he was signed because they hoped for a chance to win the title, and yet they haven't made it to the finals once, and the year they reached the conference finals, Kawhi got hurt at the end of the conference semifinals. Now, another issue is that he is under contract until the 2024-2025 season, with a $48 million player option for that year, which restricts the chances of them signing another key player or trading him if he keeps regressing or missing a ton of games. The next player is exactly in the same situation as Kawhi, but probably even worse, and this player is Zion. He came in with a lot of hype, and yet a couple years in his career, and fans are feeling like something is missing from him. He has missed a lot of games for various reasons. He's been injured, but most of the time there were rumors that it might not only be injuries because he's been leaving the team and going to rehabilitate elsewhere rather than staying with the team. He's far from being considered a bust, but with the hype he came in and how he has played and how he's been available to his team so far, he's quite the disappointment for the Pelicans organization. So here are the 7 players holding their teams back. Let me know in the comments if you agree or if I missed anyone. Also, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe. And until next time, have a great one.